Hey guys, it is Meredith and I am doing a plan with me video. This is the first one I've done, so we'll see how it goes. Okay, this is the second week of August and my planner is a little bit of a mess at the moment because I was trying some things out and I had some washi tape that tore my planner. So just kind of ignore that, but this is the basic layout. I am using an Erin Condren Life Planner. So this is kind of where I start in the whole process. I've had a ton of requests for videos, but like I said, I've never done one before, so we'll see how this goes. Okay, so this week's theme is going to be based on a lemonade, pink lemonade sort of theme using this stamp set from Fawn. It's the Make Lemonade stamp set, which is really, really cute. And I'll kind of go over supplies as I use things, but this is kind of the main inspiration for this week. Usually when I start planning, the first thing I do is either pick a stamp set or washi tape, or just have a theme in mind that I go with. So yeah. So my basic template in the Erin Condren planner is kind of the same. She sets up her planner, morning, day, night, which I don't use her typical headings. I'll show you this example. I always cover up my headings because the morning, afternoon, night really doesn't suit my life. So I'll be covering these up. So yeah, that's pretty much the first thing I do is cover up my headings. I've already covered up the top row before I started filming. The color scheme for August in the Erin Condren is all yellow and green. So I've covered up the top row and I had started writing on before I started filming, but I'll show you guys kind of that as I go along. So I'll go ahead and cover up the rest of the headings. Like I said, since I'm using a pink and yellow sort of color scheme for this week, I'll be covering up the headings with pink and yellow tape. And I already covered up the morning slots with yellow. And that's usually my events spot where I write down kind of the things that are going on that I need to remember every day of the week. Just general stuff for either me or my kids or the family, just things I need to remember. Okay, so this tape I'm using is skinny washi tape from Recollections. They come in these sort of dispensers. I got mine at Michael's and all I did, they don't come in these color standard. I just rearranged mine in Roy G. Biv order so I can find what I need more easily. But these are all from Michael's, which are fabulous because you can use a coupon, which is always a good thing to be able to use a coupon. So I'm just gonna cover up the rest of these. And one trick I love is using a straight edge. I just used my ruler that came with my Erin Condren planner to get a straight edge on your washi, because it is a pain to try. I don't know if you guys have tried. I did for a long time. Just see, now I don't like the way that came out. I'm gonna do it again. But I tried for a long time cutting cutting all these little edges, and it is a pain. It is, first of all, it's really hard to get it straight, and second of all, if you cover up your headings, you have to do that a crazy number of times, and it gets very time consuming and very annoying. So I like the ruler trick a lot, and I use it pretty much with any kind of washi I'm using, unless it's like a fabric tape that won't work with, or glitter tape. But for just the paper, the normal standard paper washi tape, it's pretty awesome. It's a pretty awesome trick. So I'm just gonna finish covering up all of my headings. The day section, like I said, will be pink, and then the night section I will do in yellow also. there you go, there's that. Now I will be writing on the categories that I use. Like here I said events, and I use the Jelly Roll white gel pen. You can get these at Amazon, you can get them at Joann's, which is awesome because you can use a coupon there. And this will, you've got to be careful with this. This will smear if you're not careful. I have tried a couple other things before. I tried white stays on. Originally I wanted to stamp my headings on, and so I really wanted to use a white ink to stamp on the headings, but I bought some white stays on, which number one was kind of expensive. Again, I used a coupon at Michael's or Joann's, I can't remember where I got it, but I was not happy with it at all. I didn't feel like it was not very opaque, and it was really difficult to use. It's different than the regular stays on. The white is different than all the other stays on because it comes with the pad that is inkless. It comes with the pad is not inked, and then it comes with an inker, so you lay down the ink yourself. And the one I got may have just been old, but it was very dry, and I just did not have a good time trying to handle that. So it was just easier for me. It's just easier for me to use a white gel pen. Now, this is where I get annoyed with this planner because of the coil. A lot of times I have really considered using a planner that has inserts so that I can take those out and lay them flat, which I think would be fabulous. But I really like the Erin Condren planner, and I've used one for a while now, so that's what I've stuck with. I actually didn't really know about too many other planners until like the spring. I got my first Erin Condren planner because my friend Susan used one, and the second year she used one, there was some snafu. They sent her two, or one was wrong, or something happened, and she had an extra, so she gave it to me. So that's how I got started using the Erin Condren planner. And this washi, I have not used this yellow one before. It is pretty transparent. It's probably the most transparent one I've used so far. A lot of and you know, I will say, because it is translucent, it's not completely opaque, it can change the color depending on what you're laying it over top of. So like here, this pink washi has a little bit of an orange tint because I laid it over a yellow header. So those are the headers. Okay, so usually the next thing I do after I have covered up all the headings is lay down my washi tape, which I normally tape off the words at the bottom, and I tape off a border on the left. So I'll go ahead and do that, and for that I'm using this yellow polka dot washi, which I got at Target a long time ago, so I know they don't sell this anymore. But I'm sure you can find something similar if you're interested. Then I'm gonna lay down the tape at the bottom. This is actually fabric tape, and this was in the Target dollar spot this summer. So you may still be able to find this, but since it's paper tape, it has a sticker backing. It's not just automatically sticky. So I'm gonna have to cut this, and I will turn it over and mark off the edge with a pen, because I don't want a pen mark on the right side of the tape. So I turned it over on the wrong side. There you go. Okay, so there's my washi borders. And then the other thing I like to do, pretty much as my basic framework, is cover up this August calendar. Just so that I usually use an accent sticker or a die cut. A lot of times I will use a sticker from the Happy Planner sticker. See, I've used a lot of these. The Happy Planner sticker book. I got this at Hobby Lobby. And this week I just chose this little flag. I thought it went well with the lemonade theme. Every day may not be good, but there is good in every day. The whole, when life hands you lemons, make lemonade. And it was pink, so that actually just worked out good. Okay, so I'm going to put that on the corner, just kind of centered at the top. There you go. So that is kind of my basic framework, how I set it up every week. I pretty much do this no matter what the theme or colors. I cover up the headings, pick 2 washi tape borders, and choose an accent, die cut, or sticker. So, okay, now, kind of the other thing I like to do when I'm stamping, for the summer, my kids and I have had theme days. So I'm gonna show you last week. Every weekday we've had a theme. So Monday is Make It Monday, Take a Trip Tuesday, Wet Wednesday, Free Thursday, Friend Friday. So we've done that every week all summer long. So I'm gonna go ahead and stamp those in, because I know I'm gonna be doing that this week, just like every other week. And to do that, I use the Studio L2E iconic border stamps. I love, love, love these. They're perfect for highlighting things, and they fit great in the boxes of the Erin Condren planner. And then you can choose whatever little icons you want to kind of coordinate with what you're stamping. So I've really, really enjoyed using these. And the other thing I do when I'm choosing a theme is pick out inks. So this week for my colored inks, I'm going to be using the Brilliance ink in Sunflower Yellow and the Brilliance ink in Pearlescent Orchid, which is beautiful. This is so pretty. It has a sheen to it that is gorgeous. That will probably not show on camera, but if you can get your hands on the Brilliance inks, I really recommend them. These inks are kind of a juicier ink, so you have to be a little bit careful when you're stamping because it's very easy to over ink the stamp. And that just gets messy and crazy. So we'll see how good of a job I do on camera. But when I'm stamping, I always fold back the pages in my planner so that I have just the page I'm stamping on top of the table. If you've got like a whole bunch of stuff, it's very hard to get an even image, and it's very annoying when you're stamping. So I'm gonna go ahead and stamp a box in each of my weekdays for our theme days for the summer. So I'm gonna ink up the stamp. I always check it. Sometimes these Brilliance inks, like I said, can either be super juicy, or I have a red one, the Rocket Red, not the Rocket Red Gold, but the Rocket Red, that is really, really dry. I don't know why. Maybe just the one I got is dry, but it's very annoying. So I'm gonna stamp it in this box, but leave enough space at the top for the icon, which then I'll later go in and color with colored pencil. But these borders are awesome. So see, there you go. So I'm gonna do that for Tuesday through Friday. Oh, I did forget to say that the acrylic blocks that I'm using are also from Michaels. I think they're also the Recollections brand, and I'll put links to everything so that you guys can check out the resources. I know that what that's like to see somebody use something and be like, oh, where can I get that? Okay, so all my boxes are stamped in for the weekdays, and then I just choose, wait, and when I don't know if you saw me, I just wipe my stamps off with a wet paper towel and then put them back on the sheet. Okay, so I'm gonna choose my icons out but I'm gonna use the glue bottle for Make It Monday for this week. So I'm gonna use the littlest, hold on, I feel like this is still totally, okay, I'm gonna use the littlest acrylic block from the Recollection set and this little glue guy for my Make It Monday. And for my black ink, my favorite is the VersaFine and Onyx Black. It does have a tendency to shadow a little bit in the Erin Condren planner. It won't bleed through, but you can see, like from last week, I do have some shadowing, and that's kind of really, you can't avoid that. So there you go, that's that. So I'm gonna go ahead and stamp in all my other icons for my theme days. Okay, so all of my icons are done, and then I'm gonna write in the headings. And for that, I'm trying to find my pen. Hold on, my things are slightly disorganized. For that, I use a pen that is not in here. Oh, here it is. I'm not sure how you pronounce this company. I think it's German. Stettler is a tripless fine liner. I like this because it is a super fine point, and I have a tendency to write really big. So I'm gonna put in my headers for each one of the days. And then later, when all of my images on the page are stamped, I will be going back and coloring in the icons with color pencil. So we'll get back to that later. The thing I do usually for the weekend is put in some sort of icon or stamp or something for the weekend. Sweet Stamp Shop makes this really cute weekend flag. It's in their weekend flag set. That's really fun to use. But for this week, I thought I'd try something different. I have this die cut, and it just came from sort of a random set at Joann's that I thought would look really cute there. And I thought I would try stamping weekend myself with the Sweet Stamp Shop script stamp sets onto the die cut. We'll see how this goes. I'm not super stellar at lining things up or spacing, so this could be disastrous, in which case it's not a big deal because this isn't in the planner. I can just decide not to use it. So I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna stamp on weekend and then I will stick it in the planner. I like how they connect though. That's actually really cute, although they are small, so I don't think I've lined them up very well for spacing on them in the center of this banner, but oops, and it looks like my K and my L are stuck together. I have not had that happen before. So I will just snip those apart. There's the K. I'll put my L back. Now, I did see that a couple people had stamped with these and said that they didn't line up very well in the block together. And Nicole from Sweet Stamp Shop replied that they were meant to be stamped individually. So that's kind of part of the reason I'm doing it this way, is that it seems like they are meant to be used this way. So actually that's really cute, except for the spacing. Okay. So there you go. There's just a little weekend banner. And like I said, it's kind of annoying me that there's space left over there, so I may end up stamping something like a little, I don't know, maybe we can put something there to kind of fill up that space a little bit. Okay, so the next thing I do that I didn't put in my overall template is I track my meal plan at the bottom of this row under this washi. So the two stamps that I always use for that are also from Sweet Stamp Shop. Are you noticing a theme? I use the Plan to Eat set, which of course I don't know where I stuck at the moment, but I use the Plan to Eat set. There is a really cute place setting stamp, which is super, super cute. And there's the word dinner. So I always stamp those in the bottom and then write in my food plan for the week for dinners. I only keep track of dinners because that is the meal that usually is the main meal of the day. So I keep track of that one. So I'm gonna line up the dinner stamp and the place setting stamp on my block. And I usually alternate colors just to kind of make it a little bit easier to differentiate the days at the bottom of here. So like I said, I'm gonna be using the Brilliance Sunflower Yellow and the Brilliance Pearlescent Orchid. Actually, you know what? Here is my stamp pads, all my little dewdrops. I keep them in this case. I got this case at Walmart. I actually may use, instead of the orchid, I may end up using pink grapefruit. We'll see. We'll do a stamp, test stamp, and see, because I'm not sure which one I'll actually like better for a pink lemonade theme. I don't know. I'm thinking maybe even though this pearlescent orchid is really beautiful, I may like the pink grapefruit better. We'll see. Like I said, I'm not sure if I'm going to use, let's do a test swatch real quick between these two, because I'm not exactly sure which one will work better. And this is just a scrap piece of paper. And I'm just gonna kind of stamp, that's the Pearlescent Orchid, which like I said is really beautiful. It's a sort of like a cool tone purpley pink. I don't know if you can see on camera the sheen to that. It's really, really beautiful. And here is the pink grapefruit. And you know what, actually, I love the Pearlescent Orchid, but for this color scheme, I'm gonna go with the pink grapefruit. So that's I just kind of stamp it and look at it. Okay, so I'm gonna do the opposite days in pink grapefruit. The next thing I'm gonna do is actually write in my dinners for the week. And that is a little bit bigger space than when I was writing up top. So for that, I use a Papermate Flare medium point pen. It makes it a little bit of a thicker line. And so I'm gonna go ahead and write in all my dinners for the week. All right, so I have finished writing in all of my meals for the week. including Taco Tuesday, I used a taco stamp for. So that's done. Okay, so the next thing I usually do is in the baked happy section, I use that as a to-do list for my cookie business. So I just go ahead and usually write a heading for that and then put a bulleted list of the items. Okay, so I've got my to-do lists for the week for my cookie business. And one thing I always do to decorate my cookie baked happy area is I put in a little cookie guy. My cookie logo is actually a cookie with a bite taken out of it with glasses. So this set is from Fawn. It's the milk and cookie set, and I use this little guy with a bite taken out of him and his face. And then, like I said, my little logo I use for my business has glasses. So I use the glasses from the Plan School set from Sweet Stamp Shop and stamp those on him. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that now. There he is, he's so cute. And I will go back in when I'm coloring all my images and color him in as well. So yeah, there he is. And the next thing I need to do is my fitness box, which I'll talk about in a second. Okay, now that my baked happy task list is finished for the week, I'm gonna do my fitness boxes. And this is the part of my planner where I don't have as much in each box for every day. So I have a little bit of wiggle room to get fancy and make it a little more fun, which is kind of my favorite part and is also the part that I get asked about the most. Because that's kind of where I can put a little scene, and I use a lot of stamps that aren't necessarily planner stamps, but that fit really well in these boxes. And I'll show you last week's as an example. So here, last week I did unicorns, and so I did this cloud castle and all these little clouds with the unicorns. And then this sidebar is also where I have a chance, since I don't use this as a list, I have a chance to kind of decorate there too. So that's what I'm gonna do this week, is make that part a little bit fancy, and that's where I can really bring in the pink lemonade theme. So like I said before, I'm using this Make Lemonade set from Fawn, and it's super cute. I love these little Fawn sets because they are really inexpensive. They're only about $4, and they come with, you know, several stamps for making, like I said, even though these aren't technically planner stamps, I think most people use them for card making and stuff like that. They're perfect because they're not too big. They'll fit in these boxes. So I know usually in my fitness, sometime in the weekend, I'll have a rest day. So a lot of my more vigorous activity and things I need to write down will take place at the beginning of the week. So I tend to put most of my decoration toward the end of the week. So that's what I'm gonna do. We're just gonna make this kind of, like I said, fancy and a little more decorative. There you go. Okay, so there's a little lemon pyramid. So now we have our little scene at the bottom, and like I said, it leaves more than enough space for me to put my little daily exercise activities in. So that's what I'm gonna go ahead and do next, is fill in all the activities in my fitness panels. Okay, I'm not quite done doing that, but I wanted to stop and talk about the last major element of the page that I decorate, and that is this left sidebar. And normally when I do that, I try and keep with the theme of what's going on down here, over here. So that's what I'm gonna do. And for that, I'm going to use the Lawn Fawn Summertime Charm Set. There is this super cute lemon and this little citrus slice. So I'm gonna go ahead and stamp those over here on the sidebar. There we go. All right, so my border is filled in, my scene at the bottom is filled in, and so I'm gonna go ahead and go on to the next part, which I get the most questions about, which is coloring. Now, there are tons of things that you can use to color in your planner. I've heard of people using the Copic markers or Copic markers. I've never used those, but I would imagine that those would bleed pretty badly in a planner. The Erin Condren pages are pretty sturdy, but I don't think would hold up to marker. So I have just decided to use colored pencil. Now these colored pencils I use are just the regular standard Crayola colored pencils that you can get pretty much anywhere. If you want to get fancy, there are people that use Prismacolor colored pencils or watercolor colored pencils, but I love the Crayola because they are pretty inexpensive. I started out with the 24 pack and recently got the 50 pack, which the 50 pack of markers is I think between $6 and $7. You cannot beat the price. And these are great quality pencils. They're really good for blending. They have a great color payoff. So to me, any tool I can use like this that is less expensive leaves more money in my budget for other things. So yeah, these are what I use, and this is it. I don't use any other sort of blending tool or water or anything like that. I just use the colored pencils. So let me show you how I blend and color in my stamped images. Okay, so I am gonna show you how I shade and blend. And the first thing I'll do is this cookie guide, just to give you an example. So like I said, I use the Crayola pencils, and when I'm shading and blending, you obviously need at least 2 colors, but for this cookie guy, I use 4. I've got dark brown, brown, light brown, and tan. So the first thing you do was when you're laying down color, it's easier if you lay down light layers of color and build up your color. It's easier to blend, it's easier to work with, instead of just going in and pressing really hard and laying down your color. So it does take a little more time, but the results are definitely worth it. I get a lot of people ask how I get it to look this way. So the thing you want to think about is where to put shadows and where to put highlights. I know this is sounding very technical, but anyway, the first thing I do is put in the shadows. So this little cookie guy is round, so he's gonna have shadows around the sides and on the bottom. So I just go in and lay down a really light layer of color. You don't need to press hard. You don't need to worry about making it perfect. We're just kind of laying in where the colors are gonna go. So I take and I usually work darkest to lightest. I find that's easier to lay colors down that way. So the goal when you're shading like this is to make the transitions of colors pretty seamless. You don't really want to see where one color starts and the next one stops. And you don't really want to see your pencil direction. But for right now, it doesn't really matter. I'm just gonna kind of lay in the colors where I want them to go. Super light. It doesn't take a lot. And with these pencils, it doesn't take a lot to make things show up. Okay, so that's kind of the first layer, and it hardly looks like anything, but I'm gonna go back in and start pressing harder and laying more color down. So this is the brown, and I'm putting it over top of the dark brown. That dark brown is really dark. It looks almost black. So, like I said, the best thing to do is press kind of lightly, and if you don't want to see the direction of your pencil marks, you can go in little circles while you're shading. And then once you've kind of got your color laid in, you can go back and start pressing harder. So darker toward the edges is where you're going to press harder, and then lighten your pressure as you get toward the center. And it's not magic or anything like that, it just takes time. And the more you practice this, the more you color, the better feel you're going to get for how much pressure to use, what colors to use to blend, and that kind of thing. I wish there was some like magic tool that I could say, hey, pick up this tool and it'll do the work for you. But with this, I found there really is no sort of magic. And even, just a little bit of color makes a big impression. Not laying down a ton of color. And already you can see he looks more three-dimensional. I'm gonna go in with the dark brown and kind of darken up the shadow around the edge. And blending is the kind of thing that you could probably spend hours doing. You could probably tweak this little guy for a long time and be like, oh, but I need to add a little more there, or take a little more away there. So, it's the kind of thing where eventually you just have to say, good enough, and move on. But that's the basic idea. I don't use any special tools, or that's it. That's it, guys. There's a little cookie man. So he's pretty much done. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish coloring in the rest of my images. I will color in, all the little stamped spaces and icons that I put in the planner. And the other thing I need to do, which I haven't done, is finish filling out my activities for the week. I just use icons and write them in and finish filling out my fitness, and then I'll be pretty much done. So, yep, let's get to that. Okay, so there is the basic idea of how I color and shade and blend. So what I'm gonna do now is finish coloring in. It's the same basic idea for everything I color. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish coloring in all my icons, finish filling in my events for the week, my fitness, and then I will show you the finished product when it is done. Okay, so this is the final spread. I have finished coloring in all the stamped images, the lemonade images at the bottom and on the side border, as well as the icons in the middle of the planner. I finished filling in all my events for the week, all my fitness, exercise activities. Oh wait, I forgot to put in the last thing in my baked happy to-do list. So let me go ahead and write that in really quickly. But yeah, so this is pretty much how my finished spreads look. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I added a couple icons at the top for decoration, and that's all. So I hope that this was informative for you guys. If you have questions, go ahead and comment down below, and I'll be sure and answer anything that you guys have. And I also plan on probably doing a more detailed coloring video so that I have a little more time to talk about that in the process. But this is sort of a simple weekly layout for the Erin Condren planner. Hope you guys enjoyed it. See you next time.